Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Unicorn Horns, a discussion series about Chinese science fiction. Today's story is 100 Ghosts Parade Tonight by Xia Jia. This story was translated by Ken Liu and was published in English in Clarkesworld in 2012. You can also find it in Ken Liu's Invisible Planets. I left a link below to Clarkesworld so you can go there now and read it for free. This video will have a lot of spoilers in it, so once again, I definitely recommend that you read the story first and then come back and continue with the video. Xia Jia is the pen name for Wang Yao and is another name that you will occasionally hear throughout the series. Not only is she a well-known author of science fiction, she also wrote her dissertation about science fiction, and she is now an associate professor at Xi'an Jiaotong University. She wrote an essay in Ken Liu's Invisible Planets called What Makes Chinese Science Fiction Chinese, and she also has written several other academic articles about Chinese science fiction as well as science fiction in general. She is an excellent resource if you want to learn more about science fiction, and as such she is an author who is really steeped in these traditions of science fiction in general. So 100 Ghosts Parade Tonight is a story that takes place in Ghost Street, a single street that is only a few feet wide but several miles long. The story is narrated by Ning, a 7-year-old boy who has been raised all his life by the ghost inhabitants of Ghost Street. These ghosts are a complicated amalgamation of human, spirit, and robot. They are robot shells inhabited by the souls of real human beings. These robots have human memories and they have real human dreams, but their bodies are mechanical, so they cannot age or change. These robots/ghosts are warriors and monks and other archetypes of Chinese literature and history. The story centers around Ning and his upbringing. He is a child out of place in the world, a real boy being raised by old robots. Throughout the beginning of the story, he believes that he does not really belong in Ghost Street, and he feels that one day he will eventually grow up and leave. As the story goes on, however, Ning begins to doubt that he really is a real boy, and that maybe he is also a robot, just like all of the other robot shells around him. The only difference is that Ning doesn't have any memory of his past life, unlike the other robots in Ghost Street. Ning doesn't remember anything that happened before he came to Ghost Street. At the end of this short story, Ghost Street is attacked by these mechanical spider robots. The warrior of Ghost Street, Yan Chisha, puts up a heroic fight against the spiders, but eventually he is killed, and Ning too is killed eventually by the spiders. At this point, Ning bleeds red blood, but he is also aware of his own body as his head is removed. The mechanical spiders shut down because they are designed to self-destruct if they accidentally eat someone who is a real human being. And at the end of the story, we get Ning's disembodied head happy that he has tricked these mechanical spiders into thinking he is a real human being. So that is the brief summary of the story, and it may be clear at this point that 100 Ghosts is a complex story that kind of defies summary. One reading of this story could be that it is about modernity and the dangers of development. The mechanical spiders at the end of the story might bring to mind this idea of modern machinery. But there is also another possible reading for this story. To get at this reading, we must first traverse the always difficult terrain of genre. Most people have heard of the term hard science fiction, referring to more science or rules-based science fiction, most notably demonstrated by authors like Isaac Asimov or Liu Cixin. On the other end of the spectrum, we have soft science fiction, which typically involves some sort of magic, or in other cases, are stories that are more focused on character and mood than on science and rules. Xia Jia coined the term porridge science fiction to refer to her work, a term that she originally meant to mean science fiction that was softer than soft science fiction. In recent interviews, however, Xia Jia has attempted to further clarify this point over porridge science fiction. This term can perhaps be thought of as a genre that interacts with multiple other genres at the same time. Xia Jia's porridge sci-fi is less science fiction that is softer than soft, and more science fiction that interacts with multiple genres at the same time, and even multiple different cultures. Xia Jia writes in her essay entitled "What Makes Chinese Science Fiction Chinese" that her story, A Hundred Ghosts Parade Tonight, is in some ways about globalization. She writes, "A Hundred Ghosts Parade Tonight includes fleeting images of other works by masters, Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book, Tsui Hark's A Chinese Ghost Story, and Hayao Miyazaki films. In my view, these disparate stories seem to speak of something in common, and the tension between Chinese ghost tales and science fiction provide yet another way to express the same idea." This idea Xia Jia explains in the next paragraph of her essay, writing that science fiction is a literature always in the state of becoming, a literature that is born on the frontier between the known and unknown, magic and science, dream and reality, self and other, present and future, east and west, and renews itself as the frontier shifts and migrates. This idea of science fiction as the language of the frontier helps us to further understand Xia Jia's story. For anyone who lives or has lived in China before, Ghost Street might bring to mind the hundreds of ancient towns that are located all around China for tourism. These ancient towns are constructed around one or two streets surrounded by buildings that are made to look like buildings of Chinese history. Like Ghost Street, these ancient towns have a strange relationship with time. They are both historic and modern and futuristic. When walking through these ancient towns, rather than thinking about what China might have been like in ancient times, what springs to mind is this active dialogue between past and present that is happening throughout all of discourse. In Xia Jia's story, Ghost Street can be thought of as a kind of border town, a town that exists on the frontier of past and present, just as Xia Jia believes science fiction exists on the border. Her story is about the in-between places, between history and modernity, technology and nature, real and artificial, and science and magic. One reading of A Hundred Ghosts Parade Tonight might therefore be a story about genre. The ghosts represent stories, human souls trapped inside of robot bodies. Ning is a new story who does not really yet know where he belongs. In her story, Xia Jia brings genre to the forefront, making it clear that this debate between hard and soft and porridge science fiction is really what makes science fiction unique in the first place. It is perhaps the only genre that doesn't quite know what it is. It exists in between places, just like Ning and just like Ghost Street, on the border, a porridge with many different ingredients. So that's it for today. This is just one reading of A Hundred Ghosts Parade Tonight. If you have a different reading, feel free to leave a comment below and let me know. Thankfully for us, Xia Jia is extremely prolific both in Chinese and in English, and so I will leave a couple of links below so you can check out more of her work and more of her short stories. I will also add some great interviews that you can find easily below as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.